Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Rigger. I am an associate staff attorney with the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I have been in this role for 8 years. The entire time I've been with BACP, I've been prosecuting consumer fraud cases that come to us based on complaints that consumers file. So in addition to prosecuting cases at the Department of Administrative Hearings, another major part of my role here is to collaborate with other regulators for consumer fraud. So the Illinois Attorney General Office, the Better Business Bureau, Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and then federal agencies as well. So the FTC, FBI, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And the reason that we collaborate in this way is to share information about the types of scams that we are seeing and how people are being defrauded. So that's allowed me an opportunity to be able to put this presentation together as we head into the busiest shopping season of the year. It's estimated that Americans will spend over $900 billion during this holiday season. So scammers can really be at work, especially shopping online and preying that way. So we can go ahead and get started. So first, a little bit more about the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. We are a fairly large department, I think close to 200 employees. And we're interesting in that we both license businesses and we regulate them. So on the licensing side, we have the Small Business Center and business consultants that can help owners navigate through the license application process and help answer questions about the types of licenses that they need and the different reviews that businesses undergo before they can be properly licensed in the city of Chicago. We have a wonderful outreach team that does these webinars, not just for consumers, but businesses as well, including a really popular series, How to Avoid Being Cited by a BACP investigator. And then kind of on the other arm is the regulation side. So the department is responsible for enforcing the Municipal Code of Chicago. There are a set of laws that businesses have to abide by when they operate in the city of Chicago. So we have teams of investigators that go out, review complaints, issue citations to be heard at the Department of Administrative Hearings. And the different industries that BACP regulates includes retail, public vehicle, liquor licensees, tobacco, and then any kind of service. There's a very wide range of different businesses that we also regulate. And that is kind of where my consumer fraud team comes in. When you file a complaint with the city of Chicago by calling 311, it comes to the consumer fraud team and is triaged from there. And assuming that we have jurisdiction and authority to proceed, then the department would investigate and potentially file a case. And so that first step that triage does, ensuring jurisdiction and authority, what that basically means is that in order for the department to be able to act on a complaint, we first have to have jurisdiction, meaning that there's a connection to Chicago. So either the consumer lives here, or the business is housed here, or the harm occurs in Chicago. So what that could look like is even if the business and the individual reside outside the city, let's say, for example, you have a business and a consumer that reside outside the city, but there's going to be a wedding at a venue inside the city and they hire a photographer. So if the photography services are meant to happen in the city of Chicago and they don't show up or something along those lines, that provides that connection to the city of Chicago, even though both the individual and the business reside outside of the city of Chicago. So that's the first key that triage looks to before we can continue with a complaint. And the other side of that is we need to make sure that the department has authority. The state of Illinois and the federal government have laws about the regulation of certain industries that indicate that only those entities, either the state or federally, that only those entities can license and regulate those businesses. It's called preemption. There's certain industries that the city of Chicago is prevented essentially from being able to regulate. And it is often things for involving professional services. So doctors, lawyers, accountants, things like that. In those scenarios, there are different, there's a state agencies or just the state in general that license and regulate those entities. So the city would be required to close out our complaint and refer it to that agency because we are prevented from continuing with the case. So if you're ever wondering, if you are ever a victim of consumer fraud and you're wondering whether or not we would have jurisdiction or authority, that's not something you need to worry about. Always err on the side of filing a complaint because we do have, connections with different agencies and we can refer a complaint over if we are not the appropriate place to hear that complaint. So always err on the side of filing the complaint and we will either be able to handle the complaint, and if not, we'll make sure that we get the complaint to where it needs to be properly investigated. So once triage determines that we have both jurisdiction and authority, a case is referred to one of our department investigators and they compile evidence. They collect paperwork such as the contracts, proof of payment, any communication, photographs, anything that the consumer has to substantiate their complaint. And the investigator will speak with both sides and collect documents from both sides. Once they have all of that information, they're trained to review to determine whether or not there are violations of the city's municipal code. If they determine that there are violations, they will issue administrative notices of violation. It's a citation. So they'll issue citations, and these cases are heard at the Department of Administrative Hearings, where I prosecute those cases. So on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see the results from January to December of 2023. Where we entered over $5.5 million in fines against bad businesses. We entered over $133,000 of restitution that was obtained on behalf of the victims that filed complaints. Restitution is essentially a refund. So $133,000 in judgments of basically refunds for consumers. And there were over 450 cases that we entered judgment on. And then there's others that, we're still pending and still working on. So heading into what this webinar is actually about, we'll start with retail store reminders. To be perfectly candid, the very vast majority of the complaints that the department receives are more service-based as opposed to retail stores and brick and mortar. So a lot of the complaints that we see are for things like home repair or motor vehicle repair, more of those service-based industries. We don't see a whole ton of complaints against your major retailers, but for in terms of what we do see when we get those complaints, the most popular about complaints about those big retailers are being overcharged at checkout. So something comes up as a different price than was listed on the shelf, false advertisement, and a receipt not being issued, which is required by retailers in the city of Chicago. So some things to keep in mind as it relates to these big box brick and mortar retailers. The first things I want to talk about is store credit cards and buy now, pay later scenarios. These aren't scams per se, but just a couple things to be aware of. So when I talk about store credit cards, I'm talking about like a Kohl's card or Target card where there's a specific credit card and you can only use it at that one store. And then for buy now, pay later, if you've ever seen something like Klarna or Afterpay, you see it a lot when shopping online. Again, not scams, but just a couple things to be aware of because sometimes people can get themselves in hot water is first, if there's a deferred interest promotion, which is something like if you buy now, you have 12 months interest free to make your payments. And as long as you pay within those 12 months, then there's no interest charge. But the way that people can get themselves into hot water is something kind of unexpected comes up. They're not able to pay within those 12 months, and then you end up being charged a rather high interest rate for that entire period, even if it's in the last month that it happens, you can still be charged interest for that entire period. It can really add up. So if you're looking into something that has a deferred interest promotion, make sure that you'll be able to actually pay it off within the promotional period. Otherwise, be aware that you can get charged some pretty high fees if you need longer than that. And then the other thing to be aware of is different fees that these retailers can charge. There's not a lot of regulation on, the types of fees that a retailer can charge. So as long as they're making their policies known, they essentially have the freedom to decide what fees and how much in fees they are going to charge customers. So it's just something to be aware of. Know if there is a charge for making a payment a certain way, if you need to change your payment due date and push it back, or if you pay late, just make sure that you keep yourself aware of what the fees are, how much you're going to get charged if you need to do one of those things. Another way to protect yourself when shopping in big box stores this season is to verify store policies before you buy anything. Like I mentioned, there's not a whole lot of regulation that goes on in terms of limiting the amount, a fee that can be charged. And there's not a lot of regulation about returns and refunds. So stores in Chicago aren't actually required to allow a return or a refund, but they do have to make the public aware of what their policies are. So make sure that you know what that refund or return policy is, because there can be pretty wildly varying timeframes. Some places will let you return something for 90 days, some 60. It could be as short as 7. Again, they don't have to allow a return or refund at all, but that does have to be conveyed to a customer ahead of time. Another thing that a store is allowed to do is to charge a restocking fee. You see that a lot with kind of those big box items around Black Friday. You buy a big TV, and then if you return it, sometimes they can charge like a 10% restocking fee. Again, that's completely allowed, but it does have to be disclosed to consumers. And another way that you can protect yourself is to make sure that you keep your receipts in case a refund or exchange is needed. It's usually required. And in the event you do end up needing to file a consumer fraud complaint with our department, the receipts are really helpful evidence for us to be able to use. So make sure that you hold on to all of your paperwork when you are buying things, either receipts or anything else that you're purchasing. So moving on to gift cards. So before 2007, consumers were leaving literally billions of dollars on the table because there weren't any regulations about how long a store had to allow a gift card to be usable before invalidating it or having it deactivate. The state of Illinois and city of Chicago were kind of on the leading end. I think in 2005, we passed our laws and ordinances, so stores couldn't deactivate the card or have the card expire and then pocket the money, which was what was happening. And then in 2007, the federal government got on board and put a stop to that as well. So these days, there are different rules for gift cards depending on who issues the gift card. And it depends, so it depends on who issues it. So in the first category, you have individual store gift cards like Target or Walmart, and then stored value cards. Stored value cards are like if you put $25 on a Starbucks card, and then every time you go and buy something from Starbucks, that value is deducted from the card. That's what I'm referring to when I say stored value card. So for those, the rules are there's not allowed to be fees. And the exact retailer has a choice of whether they either don't have an expiration date or they can have a 5-year expiration date, but then after the 5 years, instead of being able to pocket the money, they have to send it to the state of Illinois as unclaimed property. So the unclaimed property thing is done through the Illinois Treasurer's Office. If you've ever seen that website, you can go and type your name in and see whether you have unclaimed property. And if you do, the state will mail you a check. The kind of issue that you see with that is that in order for the gift card to be sent to the state as Illinois unclaimed property and for you to be able to actually claim it, you have to make sure that your gift card is registered, which pretty much, I don't know that anyone ever does that. I personally don't think I'm guilty of not doing that. So it's always wise to make sure that you register your gift card. I don't think that a whole lot of retailers at least not the major ones. I don't think that they go that route, but it is an option for them. So it's always wise to register your gift card so that you can make sure that, you know, if it does happen to expire, you can go and look at that website and you'd be able to get that value back by check. There are different rules for gift cards that are issued by credit card companies or malls. So you see Visa gift card, the Visa gift cards, and then for malls, sometimes you see that with outlet malls that outlet malls will have gift cards. And so the rules are a little bit different. Those gift cards can expire after 5 years. Fees are allowed after 1 year, but can only be charged once a month. And other fees are allowed as long as they're disclosed. So again, changing your payment date or looking up your balance, those kinds of fees can be allowed as long as they disclose to the consumer that those fees exist. Promotional loyalty and reward cards aren't protected under these. So things like Kohl's Cash, your Starbucks stars, as opposed to the value that you purchase and put on the card, but the stars that you get when you purchase, things like that, those are not protected under those laws. There isn't anything to prevent them prevent a retailer from having stars expire, your Kohl's Cash expire, putting limitations or use on how you're able to use whatever rewards you obtain by shopping at a specific store. So one thing that we see during the holiday season and to be aware of especially is gift card tampering. And we see this with physical gift cards that are purchased in the store. So on the left-hand side of this photograph, you can see that once the person removed the gift card from the packaging, the account number, the PIN number was already scratched off, and the card number and both the PIN are both scratched off, and someone had access to it. And so once the card was activated, whoever did that has the opportunity to drain the card, to add it to their own account and to be able to purchase whatever they want, so that when the actual purchaser of this gift card got around to spending it or giving it as a gift, the balance would be zero. And then on the right, you'll see, it might actually be a little bit difficult to see, but there's a slip of paper that has a barcode printed and inserted into the gift card packaging. And what the scammer did in this scenario is to print the barcode of their own Target account so that when the cashier goes to scan the gift card to add the money, it's going to the scammer's account instead of onto that card. So when you're purchasing gift cards that are open to the public, you should check them, make sure that it doesn't appear that they have been tampered with. Definitely make sure they haven't been opened. Scammers aren't necessarily typing in these account numbers and PIN numbers. They have pretty sophisticated computer software that's able to mass check different account numbers and PIN numbers and to have this run constantly so that as soon as one of these gift cards are purchased, they're immediately able to drain it. So it happens pretty instantaneously after a gift card is activated. So one way to protect yourself would be to only purchase gift cards from a customer service desk, or to do it online and to email it or print it. I know maybe it doesn't look as nice to gift a printed out piece of paper, but it is a lot safer in terms of protecting the value on that gift card. So getting into kind of our online based scams, this I think is how people lose the most money during the holiday season. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of different ways that scammers use text messages, emails, phone calls to be able to get access to people's either bank accounts or information. And so that's what scammers are really after, either get money directly from a Target or gift cards from a Target. Second, they can be looking for information either to create new accounts or to access the accounts that you already have. But then the kind of third part of that is that to know that your phone number or your email address is a live email address or live phone number that someone is actively using, because that's valuable information. Half of a scammer's job is just to be able to get in touch with you. We're going to see some sometimes obvious looking emails and examples of what a scam can look like when it comes in through text or email. But they're not dumb. A lot of scammers are super charismatic. They know what to say. They'll give you a sob story. So really half of the work isn't just finding that target, getting them on the phone. Because once they start talking, they're very good at convincing people to provide personal information or to provide money to be able to get what they want from people. It's a pretty sophisticated operation. You think it can't happen to you, but they can be super persuasive. So that is also another thing that scammers are after, is looking for those phone numbers where people will answer and where they can sell that information to other scammers to say, okay, we have a list of active phone numbers where these people will pick up the phone. So getting into delivery scams are when scammers use postal service, UPS or FedEx, claiming that you either missed a delivery, they want you to choose your delivery preference of how something is delivered, or that there wasn't enough postage paid and that you need to make up for that you need to pay to have a package delivered. So this can come in the form of emails, texts, or phone calls. I have an example of a text message here on the screen. And some of the red flags that stand out to me are first, when you can Google tracking numbers for any of the major couriers, UPS, FedEx, USPS. If you have your tracking number, you can Google that and it'll populate with where where your package is. So the first red flag was when you actually Google that GB6412, whatever, nothing comes up for that. It's not a valid tracking code. So that is the first red flag. Second, when you look at that link, it's claiming to be FedEx, but that's a super suspicious link, e3fmr.info / a whole bunch of characters. Doesn't appear to be in any way related to FedEx. And then another thing to keep in mind is that these companies, FedEx, UPS, USPS, you have to opt in order to receive text messages from those companies. And so one way that you can use to verify whether or not you're actually being contacted by a company is to think about whether you ever opted in to receive text notification from these companies. 93% of holiday shoppers purchase at least one gift online. So these types of scams can be pretty valuable because everyone has a package being delivered during this time of year, or at least 93% of us. And so sometimes you see this and you're thinking, people see this and they think, well, how could a scammer know that I'm having a package delivered? And really the answer is because the very vast majority of us that are doing holiday shopping are having our shopping delivered to us. So mass blasting these out by scammers can trap a lot of people. And then if you were to follow that link, it would either ask for personal information, or maybe it would give you an option to have it delivered faster if you pay a certain amount of money. But of course, wouldn't actually go to FedEx. There's no package that's associated with it. It's just directly going to a scammer. So we'll talk about, what it looks like when you hover over a link. So don't click a link directly. And if you see like a click here and it's going to take you somewhere on a computer, you can hover over it with your mouse. If you're on a phone and you have an Apple iPhone or you have Android, you can do like a long press over the link and that'll preview. There'll be a pop-up box that shows up and it'll preview where that link is taking you to before you click on it. So don't click on any links unless you know exactly where they're going. Don't download any email attachments that you get. Don't provide personal information. And when you get this kind of text message, immediately be suspicious unless you know you opted in. And that the tracking code actually applies to the thing that you purchased, which you can usually find in your orders, in your order that have the tracking number available to you. So if that matches the text message, that may mean that's a little bit safer. So here I have another delivery scam example, and we'll just go top down. This is from an email that was sent by a scammer, and we'll talk about the red flags in this email that should raise some suspicion. So the first thing, starting at the top, important, check your package details. One common element of a scam is to make people think that things are time sensitive and to create a sense of urgency. So immediately you're kind of in this package state. There's exclamation mark important, you're already kind of on alert, maybe inhibitions lowered a little bit, suspicion lowered a little bit because you're already kind of on alert about whether or not your package is going to be delivered. Next, can see that the email is purporting to come from USPS and the name and photo, USA Postal Service, and that strange looking picture. And then you can see that the actual email that it's coming from, supporting us at ustrackingsupport.com, not the email for USPS. They have a traditional USPS.gov email. So this is not the right email for USPS, which should alert you that this is a scam. Next, dear customer, and then there's a space and then a comma. It's not personalized. They don't actually know who you are. There's weird grammar, weird punctuation errors. Again, you see that with the next box down where it's package will be sent back, comma. So again, incorrect grammar, spacing, punctuation, a big red flag. The next one, check this now. This is when I was talking about hovering over a link. So if you hovered over this, it would, some bogus website would come up that definitely wouldn't go to USPS. So never click on that box directly. Again, just hover over with your mouse or do the long press, which allows you to preview where the link will take you. And then again, at the bottom, please note if a delivery isn't scheduled within 48 hours, you can't submit a redelivery request again, and shipping and handling fees won't be refunded. This is all about creating that sense of urgency, making you believe that you need to act right now. Oh my gosh, let me go click this link and provide whatever information that they need so that I can have my stuff delivered. So it's all about creating that sense of urgency that kind of lowers our guard down, makes us forget to think sometimes, essentially. But that kind of language of, you need to act right now should, again, immediately raise red flags. Moving on to the next area, we'll talk about online marketplaces. So when I say online marketplace, I'm mentioning your eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, if people still use that. A lot of those sites are kind of just meant to connect buyers and sellers, and there's no mechanism for payment, and there's no protection. So if you're going to use an online marketplace this season to purchase something secondhand, make sure that you read the site policies to know if there's any kind of protections in place, if they would help receive a refund if you didn't get it, if you didn't get the item that you thought you were going to be getting, or the quality doesn't match. Again, most of them are really just about providing kind of the mechanism for buyers and sellers to get in touch, and it's up to consumers to make sure that you do your research, look at the photos, see if they've ever sold anything before, know what that person that's selling, know if they have shipping fees or return policies. Of course, some marketplaces like eBay do have some consumer protections, paying through PayPal, especially when you use the business side of PayPal as goods and services as opposed to family and friends. There's protections for consumers built in, but the first step if you're going to be using one of those marketplaces is to know what all of their policies are, and whether there are any protections for you. If you're going to be selling anything on an online marketplace, maybe you want to clear out some clutter and raise some cash so that you can do some more holiday shopping. There's a couple things to be aware of. First is to have kind of an automatic suspicion for the very first response that you receive right after you post something online. I know it can be really exciting when you're trying to offload something and you right away get a response of somebody. But again, scammers have computer software bots that scroll through these websites to be the first one and to make a response to respond immediately because people are excited, they want to offload their stuff, and they can get trapped in a scam that way. So when you're selling, be suspicious of immediate responses. What it kind of looks like when you get a response from a bot or a scammer is that they will often want to have somebody else come and they'll have a reason why they want somebody else to do the transaction with you. So either having you mail something and being willing to pay a lot more money for the item than you were initially asking for, and then hoping that you'll mail it, but they'll have, there's a scam involved, or asking if they can have USPS or somebody come pick up the item and they'll send you cash. So be aware there's scams involved when you see those immediate responses. So be suspicious. I would recommend that if you are going to sell something through these marketplaces that you meet up in person at a public location like police department, bring a friend or family member, if possible, and demand cash and in-person transactions only. That's the best way for you to protect yourself. Some red flags are wanting to use Zelle after you've specified that you're looking for cash. Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, all of those kind of money transfer apps are really meant for people who know each other. And the apps are used pretty frequently by scammers because they don't have protections. They're meant to be used by people that know each other, friends transferring money for lunch or whatever. And so to get, it's not possible to reverse or to get Zelle or Venmo or whoever to reverse the transaction. Those protections are not built into those platforms. So that's why we say to demand cash in person. So after you've specified cash only, wanting to use Zelle or Venmo or whatever can be a red flag. Not being able to meet up with you, asking if they can send a family member to meet you instead. This is a common scam. Again, they'll often ask to use Zelle, and we'll see this Zelle business account scam. It's pretty widespread. Spoiler alert, Zelle doesn't have business accounts. And so the way that the scam works is they ask to use Zelle for whatever amount, $400 or whatever. And the scammer will say, I wasn't able to send the money. It's saying that you need a business account since this is a business transaction and the business account costs $400. So I'll send 800, you send 400 back. And that way you'll have the business account and, I'll have paid for the item, but they never actually send the money to you. You just end up selling them back $400 for absolutely nothing. But the email looks like it comes from Zelle and it looks like they've paid you some amount of money when they really haven't. Offering to pay more than the price that you listed the item for, usually to compensate you for not wanting to meet in person or for you shipping the item. If someone is offering to give you more money than you asked for, big red flag. So this is the Zelle business account upgrade scam. This is an email of what it looks like when someone sends you that email. So this would be kind of after, if you're using one of those online marketplaces, you agree that they can pay you by Zelle. They get your information, your email. That's how they're able to send it to you. So it looks like it's coming from zellepay.com. Email addresses, phone numbers can easily be spoofed. Spoofing, something that we see in basically all different kinds of scams. Spoofing is when it looks like an email or a phone call is coming from a number that it's not. The scammer was able to mask the account that they're actually calling or emailing from and making it look like they're calling from a legitimate phone number. So we see lots of spoofing of the IRS phone number, of different banking customer service numbers. We see that. So they're actually hiding where they're actually coming from. And so this is what the business account upgrade scam looks like. So the individual will say, okay, well, I have, Zelle has the money, so I just need to refund back $400 to the person so that our transaction can go through. Because look, it says that the total amount there is $12.50. But again, this is coming from the scammer, not from Zelle. The scammer hasn't paid anything to Zelle. All you'll end up doing is sending $400 to a scammer. So again, Zelle's business account upgrade, not a real thing. If you go against my advice, you can use Zelle for, those online marketplace transactions with people that you don't know. And if you do choose to do that, just know that you don't need a business account and no such thing exists. So another scam that we see, especially during the holiday season, are these banking scams, these fraud alert scams. Again, the scammer can spoof any bank's telephone number so that it looks like your bank is contacting you, and they can gain access to money or accounts that way. So in this scenario where this series of text messages were sent, the person thinks that that's their bank contacting them. They say no. A phone call, it says that a phone call has been generated. And so then someone thinks that a bank employee is calling them to either freeze the account, to create a new one. And what ended up happening was the person provided personal information, PIN numbers, so that the scammer could get access. And so if you see something that looks like it's coming from your bank, the best way to handle what could potentially be that kind of scam is to just ignore the text messages and to call the customer service number directly to see if there is actually any issue. In this case, this was a fraud, using fraud notification. So if you call them directly, it'll go directly to your bank, and that's the safest way for you to get in touch to determine whether or not there's anything actually going on with your account. Don't ever call a number that's listed in one of these text messages. If it's through an email, don't use any emails that are listed in the email. Just go to your bank's website directly, look for the customer service number there, or just look at the back of your bank card. That's going to be the safest way to make sure that who you are contacting is actually your bank. Another thing that I wanted to mention about going directly to either if it's your bank or just in general when we're talking about scams, is to go directly to the website. Don't Google like Citibank customer service number, because the results that come up are not the most legitimate. You can purchase the spot to be the top result for that inquiry. A couple years ago, I think it was, a scammer bought the top Google result for Amazon customer service. And so they create their own website. They make it look like it's actually related to Amazon, so that when you Google Amazon customer service number, their website, the scammer website, comes up and it gives you a telephone number to call. So people would call it thinking that they're getting in touch with Amazon customer service, but really they're just calling this scammer. And the scammer is then able to get all kinds of personal information to either get into people's accounts, to get information from people to be able to create new accounts, however they're going to use it. So make sure that when you're looking for a customer service number, go directly to the website. Again, don't Google something like, Citibank or Chase customer service number, because again, you can't always trust the results that come up. Next thing I wanted to talk about is I'm going to call shady online retailers. These are advertisements that you'll see on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I've seen this Ray-Ban one personally on my both Instagram and Facebook for years now. And it makes it look like an actual Ray-Ban advertisement. They're advertising things that are too good to be true. I blocked out the website because it isn't actually the Ray-Ban official website, even though this scam ad says that it's the official website, but it looked close enough to what could be the Ray-Ban website. So it directs you to the scam website. What you would actually be purchasing would be knockoff, counterfeit goods that maybe would never come, or if they did come, they'd be really low quality. So a couple things to look out for when you see these advertisements for something that looks like something that you're interested in. They're advertising huge sales, might have pictures of really high quality goods, but what you're actually being sold is probably something that's coming from a warehouse being drop shipped. So shipping could take a really long time. Customer service is likely to be pretty not great. You may have to pay to ship the return. So you'll see these things being advertised at huge discounts with amazing quality. And if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So just take these with like a huge grain of salt, and you can look into it a little bit more before you get too excited. So I'm going to show one other example of what I mean by these shady online retailers, where the goods are probably coming from an overseas warehouse. So on the left, you see what the advertisement was. We're sorry, our handmade workshop failed to survive this disaster. We decided to sell most of the rest of the clothing at a lower price. Click the link to explore what we want in summer. So then it goes to this bit.ly link. So it's advertising handmade clothing, hypoallergenic, breathable, environmentally friendly, trying to sell this sob story of they had some kind of disaster, now they need to offload their goods. And that's why they're selling all of their stuff at whatever price they're selling it for. So I did an image search. You can do a Google image search or reverse image search for the items in the photo. And when I did that, I was able to find the item being sold through AliExpress or Alibaba, which is an overseas warehouse, probably not super high quality clothing. But as you can see, you can purchase as many over 300 pieces for $7.90 each. Certainly not handmade, probably not also hyperallergenic, environmentally friendly. So when you look at these kinds of posts that you see on social media, just do your research on them, see if it's, see if you can find out anything about the company that is selling the item before you go and make the purchase. And we'll go over some ways to do that. So first, you can pay with a credit card so that you can dispute the charge if it doesn't show up. Paying by credit card, always a good idea when shopping online, because credit cards often have those built-in protections where you can do a chargeback if you don't get an item or if it's not as advertised. The next way that you can see if this retailer that you're seeing online, whether it's legitimate or how legitimate it is you can look up a website domain at this address, lookup.icann.org, and that will tell you who the domain is registered to, how long it's been registered for. So if a company online is indicating that they've been around for 25 years and you go to this website and you see that they've only been around for 2 years or 6 months or whatever, that's a big red flag. And you can also see who it's registered to, where it's registered to. And so if they're advertising items that are made in a certain place, and then the website is registered to someone outside of that area, that's probably another big red flag. Searching for a street address on the business's website, and making sure that, so even if you find a street address, if you then go and look on like Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, if you type that in, we see a lot of scam businesses that have a street address, but then the address will actually be for like a UPS store or some virtual office. So if a place is advertising that they have a store and it's at the UPS store or a virtual office, big red flag. Looking for HTTPS and lock symbol in the web address bar. HTTPS means that a website is encrypted. It's just an additional layer of security that adds a little bit, a little bit more security when you're shopping there. So looking for that and making sure that they have it before entering credit card information into it. If it's not encrypted, it's more prone to being leaked or hacked. Don't buy without knowing what the return policy is. Some places require things to be unworn, unwashed, etc. So make sure that you know what the return policy is, both the time frame and the condition that the item has to be in. You can look at different reviews for online retailers, looking at Trustpilot or the Better Business Bureau Scam Tracker. Business Affairs and Consumer Protection also has a list on its website of businesses that have been found liable for consumer fraud in the last 3 years. So it's always a good idea, no matter what you're shopping for or buying, take a look at those two places, but also BACP's own website to see who's been found liable of consumer fraud. And then if in doubt, you want to proceed with a transaction online, not totally sure where the item is coming from, I'd recommend not purchasing toys, health supplements, cosmetics, or food or cooking items from these retailers. The reason why is because where that item is being made may not have the same safety and health standards that we do here. And so if you purchase something like cosmetics, it may have a pigment that's not safe to be around your eyes and can burn or whatever. Toys can be made with lead paint. And so if a kid is chewing on them, that obviously has health issues as well. Food and cooking items, again, anything that's going kind of in your body, around your body, maybe be a little bit more suspicious about where you're ordering those items from. The next way we see people scammed throughout this holiday season is through fraudulent order confirmations. So this is when a scammer will make it look like either your Amazon order has shipped, your Target or Walmart or whatever order has shipped, and it comes up with a bogus link to track your package. So talking a lot about Amazon and Target, I do want to be clear that all of the retailers that I'm talking about today and giving examples of, none of them are more susceptible than other companies to being scammed. Just trying to provide some context and example. There's nothing wrong with shopping at any of the places or examples that I've given, with the exception of those shady online retailers. So any company can be a target of these kinds of scams. They tend to use the most popular ones. So Amazon is a pretty popular one that we see, but there's always tells in these fraudulent order confirmations. So again, starting at the top, the email is coming from help@markyourtrails.com, not from Amazon. So that's your first clue that this order confirmation email is a scam. The next one, approximate arrival, December 19, 18. Strange punctuation. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So seeing that again is a red flag. And then we talked again about hovering over to check where a link is taking you. So in this case, we did that, and we can see that when you hover over the link to track your package, it takes you to this weird website that's definitely not Amazon. If you go there, it is going to probably ask for your password information or gain account information, so that they can gain access to your account and do Lord knows what. So again, make sure that you're not clicking any links, emails. Sometimes we see invoices that are attached to these kinds of emails. Don't click on an attachment that claims to be like a PDF, or just don't click on any attachments in these kinds of emails. It can install things on your computer, and you just want to delete it and move on. So if something happens, your guard is lowered and you do fall for a scam, there's a couple things to be aware of and to keep in mind. So the first thing is that when you fall for a scam, it makes it a lot more likely that you will be targeted for future scams. So if you answer your phone and you fall prey to a delivery scam. After that scam is complete and they get whatever they wanted from you, your phone number will be targeted again because they know that there's a vulnerable person on the other line. And so after falling for that delivery scam, they may attempt a bank fraud scam or something along those lines, to milk you basically for everything that you have. As long as you continue paying, they will continue to try to scam you out of more and more money. And one thing that we see is recovery scams. So if you fall for a scam and you realize it's a scam and you like manage to call them out, you can actually be targeted by recovery scammers. And so maybe you fall for like a text message, a delivery scam, and it's somehow discovered after it happens. You may receive additional communication offering help to recover your money. And this is also a scam because they know that you were defrauded and they believe you to be a vulnerable person that would be willing to, try to get your money back. A lot of people are pretty helpless. Sometimes people lose a lot of money in these types of in different scams. And so to try to get the money back seems like uh, that it's what they want. And people are probably just full of hope. So don't ever pay money in order to try to recoup something that you've already lost. File a complaint with BACP, can file with the FTC if it was an online-based scam, but don't ever pay money to try to recover money lost in a scam. The government agencies doesn't charge anything to file a complaint. City of Chicago doesn't, FTC doesn't, so don't pay anything to get money back. And again, falling for one scam increases the likelihood that you'll be contacted. So our excuse me. So again, falling for one scam increases the likelihood you'll be contacted by others in different ways. So if you fall for a text message scam, be on the lookout for email ones too. It may not come in the same form. If you did pay a scammer, you can try to contact your bank, or if you use Zelle or something like that, you can try to contact those companies. Sometimes if you tell them a fraud is involved and you do it fast enough, they may be able to provide some kind of assistance. It's definitely not a guarantee, but it's worth a shot to reach out to however you paid them to try to get it reversed. If you gave a scammer personal information like your social security number, identitytheft.gov is a government agency website. You can create a recovery plan, set up credit monitoring so that you can make sure that it's not being used to create new accounts. You can freeze your credit. All of those things are at identitytheft.gov so that you can set that up. And then if you gave account names or passwords, change them immediately to something more secure. Don't reuse passwords. It's safest to have different passwords for each different website that you have. Yeah. So some takeaways to remember, first, pay by credit card whenever possible because of the protections of being able to do a chargeback. Checking your credit card and bank statements frequently for unrecognized charges so that you can act more quickly if you see something that you didn't purchase. For transactions between you and another person, always use cash as opposed to Zelle or Venmo. Ignore all unsolicited calls, texts, emails, and other messages. I recognize that this feels really cold, but again, scammers are really persuasive, and just getting you on the line is a win for them because once they start talking, it's a lot easier for them to get people, to convince people to give them what they are looking for. We all like to think that we're sympathetic and empathetic people, and it can be really hard to tell people no. So I think ignoring any unsolicited calls, texts, or emails or other messages is personally the best way to go. People can leave a voicemail and you can reach out directly if it ends up being something legitimate. And then when you're returning calls to whoever says that they're calling you, again, make sure that you're not necessarily just calling that number back. Look for, the customer service number on that place's website. If you think an unsolicited contact is legitimate, hang up and call back to the confirmed number. Exciting too good to be true offers usually are too good to be true, like that 90% off Ray-Bans advertisement that we saw that did not go to the Ray-Ban website. Don't send money to get money and don't pay people gift cards. It's a scammer hallmark to ask for like e-gift cards for them to use. So don't pay people in gift cards, and don't if you fall for a scam, don't pay money to try to get something back. It's all also a scam. And then just be aware of high pressure tactics that ask you to act quickly. These scams are all about timing and making sure that you're acting without really thinking. So take a beat, sit on it for a minute, and that will kind of allow you to remember, hopefully, some of the things that you've learned here today so that you're not falling victim to these things that are demanding that you provide information or make a payment or do whatever they want right away before you had a chance to really think it through. So for filing a complaint with BACP, here's different ways that you can do that. You can call 311, can use the Shy 311 mobile app, or visit 311.chicago.gov. For a transaction that occurred outside the city of Chicago, the best entity to handle that complaint would be the Illinois Attorney General. And then for text or phone or web-based scams that can't be tied to Chicago, Federal Trade Commission is the best agency for that. But again, if you're really not sure where to file your complaint, the best place to do that is just call 311, make your complaint with the city, and we'll get it to where it needs to go. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for participating or for joining today. I see we have a couple comments in the chat box. Just some thank yous. So if anyone has any questions, I have a couple minutes and we'll see if anything comes in, but otherwise that concludes my presentation. Lots of thank yous. Thank you all for joining. I hope you learned something useful. Oh, best one yet. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah,
There's a question in the Q&A box.
oh, there we go. A few questions. Okay. So being experienced in my previous employment in fraud department, what would be more secure site to sell from with more protection for myself and customers? So I guess I think we might need a little bit more context. I guess it depends on what you're selling. And what kind of volume you have. Setting up your own website may not, it may be the best way to go. And then to use some kind of payment service, like PayPal or something along those lines. I don't know that I'm like an expert in this kind of aspect of setting up a business, but I just personally know that PayPal has protections because they have the goods and services portion of it, versus sending things through family and friends. PayPal family and friends is like completely irreversible. using PayPal goods and services, I know is specifically meant for buyers and sellers, and that way, you know, the buyer doesn't make their payment, you don't have to ship, and if the seller doesn't, or if the buyer doesn't receive the item that they thought that they were getting, that they have recourse through that way. Working with USPS already with my e-commerce business, I get those scams on my phone for packages being delivered to somewhere else in the US. How can I keep my business separate from these text messages? I save the text number as a contact for the real USPS. Is there anything more that I can do? You can report the telephone numbers to the FTC. They track those things. Unfortunately, something like the National Do Not Call registry only applies to like telemarketers, and we're dealing with scammers. So you can add your number to the National Do Not Call registry, and maybe that would cut back on some of them, but we're really dealing with scammers that don't abide by that anyway, and maybe using something like Google Voice numbers where it's, you know, not a landline that can be tracked, and they just pop up under all these different numbers that are being spoofed anyway. So I would recommend just reporting it to the FTC. They may be able to track it and prosecute that way. Do high ticket scores get complaints for counterfeit items? I'm not sure what you mean by that. High ticket stores. Oh, like do big box retailers get complaints for counterfeit items? I personally have not seen that as a complaint that came in from BACP. It doesn't mean that it's not happening, but BACP doesn't really prosecute. We haven't received complaints to prosecute that type of issue. So I think that's all that was in the Q&A box. I don't think I see anything else in the chat. If anyone else has anything, I am here for another couple minutes. So we'll just look. Not seeing anything else come in. Again, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Marianne, for today's presentation. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you will receive credit for your attendance today. In order to receive credit for this program and earn a certificate, you must enroll in the program. To learn more about the program, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Again, that's chicago.gov/BACP certificate. This webinar was recorded and will be available on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Thank you again to Marianne, and you guys stay warm.
Thank you.